Okay, so I left off saying that if you don't do things to make a distinction, right, to be a light in the world, in truth and justice, in the divine order, then you are another guilty person in your culture, in your group. Okay? So in Proverbs, it says in Proverbs 25, I believe it is, verse 26. It says, like a muddied spring or a polluted well are the righteous who give way to the wicked. Reminds me of the prostitute that rode the beast in the Bible at the Revelations at the end. She's sitting on many waters that symbolize the people, the nations, the languages, the cultures, the religions, the groupings, right? The compartments of a compartmentalized planet. So you have to make that distinction. Now also make the distinction that in the Bible, okay, it's a bit confusing at times, but part of the devil's greater spirit is homosexuality. Okay, I'm not gay. They changed my voice. They changed my pictures. I can't remember the last time when I was able to show you a picture where they didn't edit it and make it seem gay to gayish. You know, just outrageous. There's a book or a movie called The Devil is Gay. Okay, and when we look at the European nobles, historically they had a gay look. Some wore something similar to lipstick and makeup and wigs and so on and so forth. The wig symbolizes the moon, okay, the pale moonlight. That's why they have pale makeup too. And the moon is in the ancient world, in the occult especially, it was associated with the female. Okay, so there's that. Now, so let's talk a little bit about the labyrinth, right? The compartments. So, okay, when I was younger, when I first heard that the Mexican mafia and the Aryan Brotherhood were aligned, I said, how could this be, right? White people, shoot Mexicans at the border. At the time, they were saying that, some white people were doing something like that. And that, they're cops and so on and so forth, and the Mexicans are Mexican nationals, Mexican mafia, right? Serranos, Mexican nationals was a part of their culture, Mexican nationalism, okay? And I think they had, it's been a while since I've looked into this stuff and talked to people about it, but they had some kind of a bird, right, killing a snake. And if I remember correctly, they got it from the Mexican flag or the Mexican crest or something like this, okay? And, I said, how could that be, right? Well, he said, well, then I said, I quickly reconciled. I said, well, there's human trafficking, right? They have connections that they need and so on and so forth. And then one of these guys who was a founding member of the Mexican mafia was a white guy, okay? And I said, okay. Now, my experience, with Serranos, I really never clashed with Serranos in my life. Never really had any fights with them. Never had any fights with them. Any conflict. Um, I've actually talked to some of them and was somewhat friendly with them. So, you know, I never quite understood when I was younger why Mexicans would be mad at black people. And I say, Mexicans are cool, right? Those guys say, hey, kind of tell jokes and kind of smoke weed together, what have you. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't really feel like that it was logical to assume that there was animosity. I felt like, they don't want to, if their females don't want to date black people, and then, that's fair enough. It's every group or whatever, right? And that's what I would feel about when I was young. I got my heart broken by a chick who I assumed was Hispanic because her name was Maria. And, and for a while I was mad and thinking about the implications of cultural barriers and so on and so forth. But over time, on the internet, there was a lot of shit talking and so on and so forth, but it was really it's the internet, right? And at some point, okay, they brought in some kind of family, right? There's a bunch of families that are involved in this, right? People might say bloodlines of the Illuminati. Okay, I don't know what they are, but they're certainly families that are part of the deep state's organized crime process, okay? And for whatever reason, they talk about doppelgangers, Hitler's twin studies. For whatever reason, part of this, you know, is people that look similar, right? Some people call them, Nazi criminal clones, right? I don't know why that is, you know what I mean? But they look similar. So again, there was this one guy. He looked like this guy I seen in Santa Cruz at a certain institution. I don't want to get into that. Um, and a Sereno I'd seen there, and he was, I live in unincorporated Morgan Hill. He was on the property, and there, uh, he it was like he was challenging me, but I'm like, who's this guy, right? And he puts his head to the side, right? Like, it's kind of like, it's hard to explain what that exact gesture means. You can take it as a hostile gesture, like, what are you looking at, huh? Like, I'm crazy, right? I'm fucked in the head, I'm loco, right? You know what I'm saying? And I'm watching this play out. And at that time, I hadn't been working out. I was kind of, kind of a little bit drunk, a little, smoking weed, kind of, cutting back on my food intake to support my weed habit. And I see this guy, he's acting like this. And I'm like, man, what is this about? What's going on? You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking maybe it has something to do with me yelling out loud when I play my music, but I didn't really know what it was about. And I'm thinking, what I'm saying, fuck am I going to go out there for and fight with this guy? Okay? And this kind of weird feeling came over me. Now, they have the ability to induce feelings. You know what I'm saying? And I'll tell you right now, you would not hear this story anywhere else if I didn't bring it up myself. I'll tell you that right now. They have some kind of an ability to induce nervousness. I'm like a kid at the time. He's like an older guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm probably like 19, 20, 21, 22. Okay, and he's probably about 30 years old. Looked like he'd been to the pen. You know what I'm saying? And this was a common thing. In high school, there was when I was like 15 or 16, there's this guy, he's like, he's like 20 years old, like a third year senior or something, any longer in high school and he's not allowed to be there or something like that. He's like the maximum age you can be. And they have him trying to start conflicts with me. So they did a lot of this stuff. So it was conflicts that didn't make sense that the state would set up. Okay, they would pit us against each other. I had a game when I was younger called Pit Fighter, right? And being in the pit, right? This wordplay is part of it too, right? They would pit us against each other. You know what I'm saying? And keep in mind, I'm like a straight killer. You see what I'm saying? In terms of conflict, right? If I really think it's on and it really matters, okay, then I'm gonna stab you. I'm gonna kill you. You see what I'm saying? I've been stabbed before, and I chased him away with a baseball bat, and he and this guy, and I got stitches still, and I got the scars and everything. This guy ran, what I'm saying, to town, what have you, and I covered up for him. And I said I fell on a bunch of CDs, right? Stupid. I had to think of something on the spot. They said, the doctor wants to know when you got the stabbings, and if it's something like this, we have to report it to the police. I'm like, I was angry and I broke CDs, and then I slipped and I fell and they cut me, right? Complete bullshit. They didn't buy it, but they had no choice but to roll with it. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. You know what I'm saying? So don't ever in your life think that I'm some kind of a bitch or something. You know what I'm saying? They have technologies, neural weapons that overwhelm your mind. And I didn't go out like a bitch at that day. I kind of kept an eye on him, and I'm like, I looked back out, and once in a while he went back, to the other end with the people that were there at the time. I'm like, man, well, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? And so over the course of my life, there was the Sereno that looked at him like him before that occurred, or maybe it was after that occurred. It was somewhere around that time period. Okay. And then there was this guy, I was at a dance, right, with this chick. It was a super hot chick I met off the internet. You know what I'm saying? She came into a car with two strange black guys. Me and my little brother. He was driving at the time, I wasn't. And we went to the club, and she lived in Milpitas, and we go downtown San Jose, whoop-de-whoop, right? We get into the club, and, we're kind of, this guy comes up, and he talks to her, he comes up, and he's wanting to dance. She's like, sure. I'm like feeling awkward. And she was like, after that, she said, she said, I felt bad because I wasn't supposed to dance. I feel like I messed everything up, right? And then, while we were walking back, she had like hot heels on. She was dressed like a club. She was a short, very attractive female, half Filipino, half white or something. And she had some kind of heels on. We're walking. There's a bunch of black gangsters in line, right? They're actually Crips. One has a blue bandana, and he's in the line for the club. I don't even think they could get into the club that way. You know what I'm saying? He was dressed like a textbook Crip. And he's like, he's starting harder, and he says, is that your girlfriend? I say, yeah. You know what I'm saying? He's like, oh. And he kind of smiles, and we keep going. And she wasn't my girlfriend. So I kind of stood up for her. I remember that part, We get on the Ave, right? And we start driving toward 101. I don't think it's the fastest way to Milpitas, but we're going, toward eastward on Santa Clara Avenue. and there's these cops there, and one of them has a flashlight. He shines it over, and I guess I wasn't wearing my seatbelt and she wasn't. I can't remember if it was me, but it was certainly her. So then he writes her a ticket, and she's poor, and she's like lives with her grandma, and she's like, man, my grandma can't afford this, and she's all sad, and I'm like, I offer to pay it for her, and she's like, no, that's okay. And she basically kicked me to the curb after that day. So I think the whole thing was probably set up because people were not, I was not meeting, I was on the internet a whole lot and like never met anyone from San Jose off the internet. It was like unheard of. There was people from all over the world, but never from San Jose, or Milpitas, okay? So whenever something like that happened, it was always someone they planted there, okay? So I had seen this guy at the club, the Sereno, the guy on the property, okay, and this other guy later claimed to be a targeted individual. And he was something like that, right? He claimed to be some kind of gangster from somewhere, and they do these things, you know what I'm saying? And this other time, they like set up fights, in the case of those guys, it wasn't really setting up a fight except for that one guy, okay, in the case of this other black guy who went to the local boxing gym, right? Again, it was, I was in that, I had gotten in a car accident. I had back problems at the time. I was, smoking a lot of weed and drinking, and I wasn't that, I had a little muscle on me, but not a whole lot. And this dude was like in the best shape of his fucking life, you know what I'm saying? And he's all, he's very strong, very, boxer-like, you know what I'm saying? And they're trying to set the stage for me to fight this dude. You know what I'm saying? And fucking I probably would have crippled myself trying to fight him, because I had been in a car accident going 100 miles an hour in the back middle seat on a fluke. I was like, and a lot of shady things happened there. I remember the guy was like, man, you're going to look back at this and you're going to regret having sat in the back middle seat and not argue with us about it. Even though everyone called it, I call this seat. Well, I'm not sitting in the middle. And so I ended up in the middle. I'm like, a lot of times I'm like, okay, whatever, I'm saying? I'm not seat tripping. We'll get to there and boom, 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 right? So, and it just happened to be, we're going back on the freeway, and the car flips over, okay? In fact, the guy who was driving was part, if I'm not mistaken, he was part Filipino, part white. And they're called, not a derogatory, no disrespect to the Filipino communities, but they're called flips, right? It's kind of like Little Flip the Rapper, but it's Filipino. Okay, and the car flips over in the air and on the fucking ground, ends up going the other way, to make a long story short, ends up hitting the fucking hill. And why right before it's about to hit, I scream, oh shit, and all kinds of dirt and glass goes into my mouth, my throat. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure they used technology to set that situation up, and they wanted me to still be alive. They wanted it to fuck up my throat, mess up my wind, just like when they used to spike my marijuana. I mean, they went the distance to reduce, my look, and to confuse and say, well, why? Why David and Goliath? Why Samson? Why Horus versus Set? You know what I'm saying? Achilles versus, what was it, Hector? It's about this single combat stuff in Greco-Roman mythology and Judeo-Christian culture. They want to make it seem like whites and Jews and crypto whites and Jews are the fucking truth or something. You know what I'm saying? And you see like Magic Johnson, right? Magic Johnson, a play on words, right? And he gets AIDS, right? How many think that's a coincidence, right? Magic Johnson, and the wordplay, right? Together, to get her, pre-prayer, pre-rape, compare, mock rape, come rape. So, look at it, right? So my dad, brain surgeon, so on and so forth, but because, he's not in a secret society that I know of, that means very little to the social status of this kind of pedophile, kind of petty, kind of, no, I want to look important kind of culture and spirit of the West and of America. Okay, that means little to them. They didn't give a shit about their daughters were shunning me. Okay, I'm just an N-word to them that they need to address immediately and make look bad at every turn. You know what I'm saying? And so my dad's, giving away free service. He's doing all this, he's a humanitarian and top doctor and all this stuff. But the community worships the fucking devil. Now, I don't give a shit, so to speak, about this stuff that he did. And I'm not saying, they owe him and da-da-da-da. That's that. Whatever that is what it is. But when you're God's son in the top martial arts ever, and they worship the fucking devil, and they date devils, they spread their legs for rapists who sent you warnings saying, hey, we're gonna, they said they're gonna rape women one way or another, and if they resist, they're gonna beat the hell out of them. Okay, that's what they were getting at. And later on, psychologists had said that if a female's getting raped, she should just lay back and let it happen. And they did not lift a finger to prevent rape. In fact, they said, don't slut shame. Well, guess what? When we dress like a slut, guys are less likely to respect you. They're more likely to rape you. They say she's a dumb slut fucker, less likely to stick up for you. And, I'm out of time.